Good evening, good afternoon, good morning. It's always a pleasure for you to check out the real estate experience with me right here, TRAVON Smith. No matter what time of the day you might be checking it out, I got a special guest today. Somebody I always get people that I can't wait to pick their brain, and today's guest is somebody I'm definitely interested in getting to know how he got started. It's the one and only Mr. Keith Hale. How you doing today?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm doing pretty good, man. It's definitely a pleasure, and thank you for joining us and hanging out with us.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks for having me.
No problem. So once you go, I always start with the introduction. Let people know. I don't know if you have a extravagant story how you got into real estate or
Sure.
something family passed down. So let's talk about you and how you got into real estate, boss.
Yeah, well, I got into real estate actually by accident. I was a aspiring football player and got hurt. And then a good friend of mine's father was a private money lender up in my hometown of Danville, California.
Okay.
And so he taught me the business. I started lending money, became real good at it. Became so good at it that I was able to retire at a young age. For the first time, I retired at 28 years old. And at that point, I wanted to start getting into, buying real estate and selling real estate also on the side. So I started, got my first house up in the Bay Area. And I bought this house for I think $145,000 and sold it for like 275. I thought, wow, that was great. It only took me like, within 6 weeks to do that. Right. So I started repeating the model and learning more about it. And a good friend of mine was a big investor. I always done well at the loan side. He always did well at the real estate side. And so we kind of joined forces. And before you know it, I grew my portfolio and I started flipping a lot of properties. And since I've done hundreds of properties and all through the state of California, but primarily now focused on the last 10 years, Orange County, coastal communities along the coast. I mean, all the way down to San Diego, but primarily between Huntington Beach, Newport Beach, Laguna Beach, anything that has a beach after the first word.
No. That's definitely, man, astonishing and great information, especially for people like us, getting involved. And I mean, they're just to retire off at 28. I mean, there's enough wealth, and there's going to be enough wealth in these conversations with you that people
Yeah.
will be taking notes and blowing you up just from in general.
Yeah.
I
Exactly.
want to start, man. I'm trying to pick your brain so I could be like you. So something like that. Well, I'm gonna go back to what we just talked about. So, do you primarily look like? Are you at the stage where you only look at areas with beaches right now because it benefits you the most?
I mean, I think, looking into the last couple of years, we were in a different market than we are today, right? The market's dramatically changed since it has just in the last, 2 months. So I think now we're a little bit more flexible. However, looking at the coastal markets always have a better value and they'll hold the value longer than you will if you go inland. So inland, cities like the Inland Empire or even parts of the Bay Area, you have to be careful of, in my opinion, just because of even though the coast costs more, the value of people coming out of the country, the value of people that will always want to come to the coast, you just can't, you can't have that value anywhere else. So, I do look other places, but I mean, I'm very selective on the properties because at this point, in what we do and what I do, it's we're very particular on what type of product. It's not, I don't flip low end homes anymore. It's more on the upper to high end properties that we flip at this point.
Man, I'm already knowing I can see show two coming from this, but I'm gonna start off with it right here. So I want to ask, what can somebody like, let's say, the average listener, or average real estate agent right now do to start doing what you're doing to flipping homes? How can they get involved in like step one of the process, and maybe step two and three if we have time?
Yeah, I mean, I think, step one is to identify your market, right? I think, for me personally, we won't buy anything that you can't touch. So if I can't see it and touch it first, I'm not going to buy it. So first thing I think would be to identify a market that you know pretty well. And then, hopefully it's close to where enough where you can afford to buy a property for the first time. And then, really know that market because we are changing. The market's changing. The values that you saw 3, 4 months ago are not the values that are going to be going forward for next year.
Mhm.
So you want to be careful on what you purchase because we try and buy everything at a 20% discount, at least from current market value. And that was going back through all the years, right? Good market, bad market doesn't matter. So I would say that, first thing is know your market. Second thing is, know how much capital you have to spend, and really drill down your budget. What I see more than anything in people who get in trouble in this space is that they're listening to other people and they say, I'll buy this house for 450. It'll cost $50,000 to fix it up, and I'll sell it for 700. Well, how do you know it'll cost $50,000 to fix it up? Like what gives you that education? What proof do you have that will cost $50,000? So before, I would say you really have to know your costs, right? And you have to zone in on your costs, because where most people get hurt in this business is that the costs aren't what they thought they were. They're contractors, the materials, they're much more expensive. So I would say you really have to know your costs, and if you don't, then you work with someone else to kind of get your feet wet before you go jump in all the way.
Okay. And so if we just summing it up, man, we're talking to Mr. Keith Hale, talking about flips. He's retired when he was 28. It's somebody we want to definitely bring back on the show, because I think a lot of people are getting interested in this and trying to figure it out, but they might not have the answers. And
Yeah.
wait, but
Yeah.
we talked about a couple steps you might want to do. Number one, know your areas. If you can't touch it, go see it. Maybe not invest in it. And number two is know what kind of capital you're working with. I think that's very important, because a lot of people get into these projects and find
Yeah.
out. You probably know from example, maybe you could talk about a situation. Hey, this, you thought it was right for you and you had to bail out on it, or of a situation like that.
I mean, it happens all the time.
Okay.
We bought a piece of property just, here down here in La Jolla where it happened, where some guys got involved with it. They went well over budget on what they thought it would cost to develop some land. And we came in and purchased that and took it over. But this is I can give you 1,000
Yeah,
examples of
yeah.
it, because this is probably the one of the biggest problems there is, because people, we kind of do everything in house, where we have control over the cost, so to speak, and we have control over the materials and things like that. Getting into this, you're not going to have that that luxury, right? You're going to have to rely on contractors and third party vendors to help you. So if you're going to flip a property, before you even during your due diligence period, before you release contingencies, you're going to want to make sure what the cost, and get actual construction bids for what they would cost to flip that property, no matter which, what you have to do to the property. So that's really important. I would say the third thing, if you don't mind me giving you one more, would be
Yeah.
your lender, right? You work with a lender that you can trust, one that and what's your cost of capital, get that up front, because everyone wants to buy a property, but then we get into it, they realize, oh wow, the profit margins just will dwindle because you're making mortgage payments. And that goes back to my second point, which was know your market, because a lot of people will say, well, I'll buy this property, I'll fix it, and I'll flip it within 90 days. Probably not, right? Not in this market, right? Things are taking a lot longer because buyers are more apprehensive than ever before. So what I would say is, know what your cost of capital is, and you should have some sort of software program that helps you analyze all of this, because what seems like a good deal, just by hearing it, when you put it on paper, it may not be such a good deal any longer.
Man, there's things that my brain is just rattling right now, because I thought it was more of like you see it, you invest in it. I've done long term like investments, but I've never done it short term. So
Yeah.
what we're talking about is something more like you'll more likely do with a private lender, correct?
Yeah, and we
Yeah,
and
private.
I do that too. So
Okay.
I'm just throwing it out there. So if you, because the thing about it is that it's rare to have someone who knows both ends of the business, right? Or all aspects of it, meaning that the actual someone who's actually flipped a bunch of homes,
Mm,
someone who understands the lending process and also understands the construction process.
yeah.
It's a very rare set of skill sets. Most people focus on one or the other. I just happen to have been thrown into kind of all of them and been successful at all of them. So but yeah, you definitely need to work with the lender first. That should be step number one,
Yeah.
is to be know your market, get approved. How much can you afford? What would the payments be if you bought this range of property, right? And then you go shopping for a property. More often than not, I get calls from people who went and found the property first, and then they're calling me, and then they're in trouble again, right? They're in trouble, right? And now they're want to buy a property, their earnest money deposit's been released, and now they have to buy the property, and they're asking me if I would partner with them.
Yeah. Which,
So
which which in turn benefits you in some degree. Um,
right.
so let me ask you this: with the market being the way it is right now, and I know you're being, I want to say you use the words like picky or whatnot, as far as
Yeah.
when the what kind of market where you like, I'm just buying everything up, I don't really care? Was it the last like, you know, the last 6 months to a year where everything was
Yeah.
just going, and or like how does the market fluctuate your decisions?
I mean, again, I think, going back to point number two, which is know your market.
Mhm.
You can call me and say, Keith, I got a property in Newport Beach. I'll ask you what street it's on, and I can know in 5 seconds or not if I'm going to buy it at what
Okay.
price, right?
Okay.
Because I know the markets really well. I think if you called me and say, Keith, I have a deal for you in Canton, Ohio, it could be the best deal in the world, I would pass on it because I don't know the area at all.
Yeah, I got you.
So I think the area, knowing your market dictates what you purchase, even today's market, right?
Yeah.
Because things like I said, I mean, I purchased a property here in San Diego County 4 months ago, 3 months ago.
I got you. If you just tuning in, man, it's
Yeah.
Travon Smith with the Real Estate Experience. We're talking to Mr. Keith Hale, expert flipper. We just picking his brain. We only got a couple more minutes, so we're gonna have to bring him
No
back for
worries, no
another
worries.
show.
Okay.
No, no,
Anyways,
but go
I was
ahead.
gonna say I bought a property 100,000 under market value. I flipped it quick. I was in and out. I got in there. I was out of there in 2.5 weeks.
Yeah.
Complete flip, inside and out, complete done. Then the market changed, right? And the news started, and everything started. So, I didn't get to realize 100,000 worth of profit. It was 50,000.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that you have to be prepared for those type of things. So, I bought that property right. I mean that you make your money when you buy the property, and then you earn your money when you sell it,
Yes.
right? So you basically have to make sure that you know the market well enough to know, are you going to buy? But to answer your question, yes, for the last couple of years, if you called me in certain demographic areas, we buy the property sight unseen for sure.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Mr. Hale, can you go and get everybody your information if they want to possibly pick your brain, or maybe they had a
Yeah.
property or something that they had? Go ahead. Whatever you feel comfortable with giving, go
Sure.
ahead and give it.
Yeah, my email is Keith, Keith at Cali, CALI flips, FLIPS.com. So Cali flips. My website's also califlips.com. And my direct cell is 657-900-6000. Can't forget that one.
No, definitely. And you're somebody I wanna have like I wanna get like a flip 101 class with you right here, man.
Yeah,
We just
definitely.
bring you back and just talk
Yeah,
about these things, because I think it's important I see a lot of people that are trying to do it, and they might
sure.
not have the knowledge of it, because I see a lot of people get stuck, or I'm like, y'all been flipping this for over like
Right,
almost a year now. Like,
right,
so
right,
people
right.
that may need to be talking to you and get your expertise. But I
Yeah.
man, I super appreciate you hanging out with us. Anything that you want to cover? We got a couple minutes before we get out of here.
No, this has been great, but yeah, I'd love to come back on again and
Oh no, no, no! It's
all
mandatory. It's mandatory,
right.
man. So
Yeah.
I actually got a lot of information out of this, and I think a lot of people
Nice.
benefit from it. So once again, Mr. Hale, appreciate you for checking in with us, but we'll definitely have you back. And thanks again.
All right, sounds good. Have a good evening.
Have you too, boss.